Over the past couple of years, people have asked me the same question again and again. In the age of AI, what skills are the hardest to replace? I've boiled my answer down to four things. First, asking the real question. Second, learning the tools first. Third, breaking down the wall between the humanities and the sciences. And fourth, rebuilding your professional skills around AI. So today I want to talk through why I think these four abilities are becoming so valuable. If you've been following the AI world, you've probably noticed a strange contradiction. Big tech is still cutting jobs. In 2025, more than 120,000 tech workers were laid off. In 2026, the number is already above 100,000. Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, these are not small companies trimming around the edges. These are some of the biggest names in technology cutting thousands of roles while pouring huge amounts of money into AI. And yet, at the same time, AI labs and major tech companies are becoming more interested in people trained in philosophy, journalism, language, ethics, and human judgment. I've seen reports claiming that liberal arts graduates are showing up more often in AI related teams, especially people trained in philosophy and journalism. I would be careful with the exact numbers. I would not treat every number in those reports as gospel, but the direction makes sense. And that direction is what interests me. A lot of people look at this and think, wait, what happened to the old rule that STEM was the safe bet? For years, the common advice was learn math, science, engineering, coding, and you'll be fine. You'll always have a place in the world. And to be clear, I'm not saying that advice is wrong. Technical ability still matters a lot. But AI is exposing something we forgot. Technical execution is not the whole job. No matter how powerful an AI model becomes, it is still made for people to use. So AI has to understand people. And people are strange. We have values, we have taste, we have emotions, we have moral judgment. We care about right and wrong, beautiful and ugly, acceptable and unacceptable. We do not just ask whether something can be done, we also ask whether it should be done. In plain English, you could say a person needs a moral and philosophical compass. But AI, in its raw form, does not have that. No values, no moral bottom line, no real sense of right and wrong. It can produce language, it can produce code, it can produce images, it can answer questions. But by itself, it does not know what kind of answer should exist in the world. So every serious company building large language models faces a very strange problem. They are not just building a tool, they are building a tool that talks, refuses, explains, advises, summarizes, judges risk, handles emotional situations, and sometimes sits very close to people's most private decisions. That means they have to build something like an AI constitution, not a constitution in the full political sense, obviously, but a set of rules, principles, boundaries, and priorities. What can the model say? What should it refuse? What counts as harmful? What counts as acceptable? What should it do when two values conflict? What should it do when a user asks for something dangerous, manipulative, or morally ugly? Once you have that constitution, the model does not become moral in the human sense, but it starts to behave as if boundaries exist. It refuses some things, it accepts others, it follows a visible line, it starts to show something like a behavioral character. Now ask yourself, who is good at thinking about this? Engineers are necessary, obviously. You cannot build these systems without engineers. But this is not only an engineering problem. This is also a problem about ethics, language, meaning, responsibility, social norms, and human judgment. In other words, it is a philosophical problem. Take Anthropic, the company behind Claude. It is a useful example, but we have to be precise. One of its co founders, Jack Clark, came from journalism and English literature rather than a traditional computer science background. And people like Amanda Askell, a philosopher with a PhD, have worked on questions around Claude's constitution, personality, and model behavior. So the point is not that a philosophy founder built Claude. That would be too sloppy. The point is that some of the most important questions around AI safety and alignment are not purely technical questions. They are questions about language, ethics, human behavior, and where to draw lines. That is one reason philosophy and humanities training suddenly matters in parts of the AI world. So, why are journalism majors also becoming valuable? Because journalism trains you to spot what is unusual. We might wonder, what is journalism? What is news? The answer was simple: dog bites man, not news. Man bites dog, that is news. The point is not the dog, the point is the abnormality. Journalism is really about human beings, what they do, what they miss, what breaks the pattern. A journalist has to look at ordinary events and find the part that does not quite fit. Then they have to see it clearly, make sense of it, and explain it to other people. And that is a rare skill. At the bottom, journalism is training in problem discovery. What is strange here? What is the real story? What is the part other people are not seeing? What is the question underneath the obvious question? And this matters a lot in the AI age. Because if AI can generate answers very quickly, then the bottleneck moves somewhere else. The bottleneck moves to the question. And now I would like to talk about a phrase called vibe coding. The basic idea is that you no longer have to grind through every line of code yourself. If you can clearly explain what you want, AI can help write the code. So the essence of programming starts to shift. It moves from hammering out code yourself to explaining the task clearly. The bottleneck moves from syntax to intention. What do you actually want the system to build? What counts as success? What should it avoid? What is the real problem you are trying to solve? And if you think about it, that is exactly the kind of skill journalism trains. A good journalist does not just collect facts, a good journalist finds the angle. They define the issue, they decide what matters and what does not. They translate confusion into a clear story. That is why large model teams increasingly need people in roles like conversation design, narrative design, model behavior design, policy work, safety evaluation, and red teaming. Some of this work is technical, some of it is linguistic, some of it is ethical, some of it is almost editorial. And honestly, that kind of work is not easy for just anyone. People trained in language, framing, storytelling, judgment, and interpretation may actually have a real edge there. When I look at this pattern, I do not think humanities students suddenly became fashionable for no reason. I think AI is revealing something older. A lot of important innovation happens at the boundaries between fields. When disciplines collide, something new appears. The unfamiliar itself creates demand. New combinations appear. New kinds of people become useful. New kinds of products become possible. That is true for industries. It is also true for human ability. For a long time, we like to separate people into neat categories. This person is technical. That person is creative. This person is a humanities person. That person is a science guy. This person writes and that person builds. But AI is making that separation less useful. If you only understand technology but do not understand people, you will build systems that are powerful but socially clumsy. If you only understand people but refuse to learn the tools, you will become good at judgment but weak in execution. The valuable person is increasingly the one who can cross the line. Someone who understands the tool but also understands meaning. Someone who can use AI but also question AI. Someone who can speak to engineers, designers, users, and institutions. Someone who can ask the real question before asking the machine for an answer. Kant has a famous line engraved on his tomb. He said, "Two things fill the mind with ever new and increasing admiration and awe: the starry heavens above me and the moral law within me." The starry heavens point to the laws of nature, structure, order, physics, system, the part of the world that science tries to understand. The moral law points to something different: will, judgment, responsibility. the principles that guide human action. That sentence still works in the age of AI. Maybe it works even better now, because AI sits right at the meeting point of those two things. On one side, it is mathematics, computation, data, model architecture, infrastructure. On the other side, it is language, judgment, trust, harm, desire, fear, persuasion, and responsibility. So, humanities students need to understand AI, while STEM students need to understand human nature. And large language models need to understand people, or at least be shaped by people who understand people. So let me come back to the four abilities I mentioned at the beginning. First, asking the real question. This may be the most important one. In a world where AI can produce answers quickly, cheap answers become everywhere. The hard part is knowing what is worth asking. A bad question with a powerful tool is still a bad question. It just produces a faster mess. Second, learning the tools first. You do not need to worship every new tool, but you cannot stand outside the age you live in and pretend nothing has changed. If a new tool changes how work is done, you should touch it early. Try it, break it, test it, learn what it can do and what it cannot do. Third, breaking down the wall between the humanities and the sciences. This old wall is becoming less useful. AI is technical, but it is used by humans. It requires engineering, but it also requires ethics, language, design, law, psychology, and culture. And fourth, rebuilding professional skills. AI does not simply delete professions, it changes what is valuable inside them. A lawyer who only retrieves templates is in trouble. A journalist who only rewrites press releases is in trouble. A programmer who only writes routine code is in trouble. A designer who only makes generic layouts is in trouble. But a professional who can ask better questions, use better tools, make better judgments, and connect human meaning with machine capability becomes more valuable. AI may make doing things easier, but it makes knowing what to do even more important, and that is the real shift. The age of AI does not reward people who only protect their old identity. Those identity labels are becoming too small. The more useful question is, can you think clearly, learn fast, cross boundaries, and rebuild your skill set before the world rebuilds it for you? Last but not least, thank you for being interested in Journey of Societal Dynamics. This is a channel for long-form explorations of how people, power, and technology shape our world. We look at incentives, biases, systems, and the strange ways human beings adapt when the world changes around them. If this episode gave you a different way to think about AI, education, work, or the future of professional skills, subscribe, like, and leave a comment. And I want to leave you with two questions. In the age of AI, what skill do you think is hardest to replace? And more personally, are you rebuilding your skills around AI, or are you still defending an old professional identity? Let me know in the comments. I will see you in the next one.